Welcome to the Journey to a Million podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Walker. This podcast is about my personal journey from being $25,000 in debt to getting to $1 million of net worth by the age of 43. Follow along with my journey, implement the ideas, and let's do it together. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's get started. What's up, y'all? It's Chris, and this is the Journey to a Million podcast. Today is Thursday, March 4th, 2021, and it's time for another podcast. It's time to check in and see where we are and what the next step is. So I wanted to make a podcast to kind of go through my current portfolio, the percentages I have of each thing, and that way you guys can use those percentages to make an get an idea of kind of where you'd want to go and what steps you'd want to take. So before I do that, just looking real quick, price of Bitcoin right now, let's see, should have had this ready, huh? 49,700. So we actually just went through last week a pretty big sell-off, and it's interesting what happens because you have these runs where you're like, all right, like it's just going up, you feel great. We hit kind of a euphoria stage, and usually when you hit euphoria, that's kind of the signal that there's going to be a pullback coming. That's just how it works. And so Bitcoin definitely fell, and the whole market kind of fell about a few percentage points. And so people were getting scared, and that's usually what happens with the fear. People are wondering, like, is this the end of the run for Bitcoin? But you have to realize, like, whenever you feel like that, the best thing to do is just zoom out. Like, we went up to 57,000, and if we go back a month, we were just above 30,000. So we went all-time high, all-time was like 17,000 for Bitcoin. We broke through that steadily in December, and then got all the way to 33 by February. Then we went all the way up to 57 by mid-February. So that run was pretty crazy. And it's interesting to think about the market to me, and you can kind of compare it to things that happen in life, because when you sprint, eventually you're going to run out of steam, and the markets are the same way. You're going to run out of steam eventually, and then you're going to have to rest. You can't just sprint continuously. The harder you sprint, the more rest you're going to have to take to get back to where you were and come back. You can steadily jog and keep going this way. And some people do that. They have a little break and then they jog in, and they have a break and jog again. And then some people just sprint and then they take a longer break and then they sprint again. And so that's kind of what Bitcoin has been doing. And, with this bull run, it's going to go for about a year or so. And we've been in it for months already. So I don't know how many months it has left. But at the same time, it's I would say probably 3, 4 at least, maybe longer. But it's like this year-long sprint is going to take 3 to 4 years, I think, of like retracing and then building back up again. So it's like if I went and ran a marathon, or the farthest I'll run is like 5K usually in a race or something, but only done that a couple times. More of a soccer player. I just chase the ball around and it's easier to run. But yeah, so it's like I might run 4 to 5 miles in a game, but I need like 3 days to recover from that. So it's like 1 day of sprint, then 3 days of recovery. So that's kind of, I think, what Bitcoin is going to do too. But just wanted to let you guys know that things are going to always pull back. One other reason, if you guys watch BitBoy Crypto, that's one of the guys I usually watch, and they put out content every single day. One of the things that they've been talking about is there's a place called F2 Pool, and this place has a bunch of people pulled together, I think, that own a lot of Bitcoin, and they actually will sometimes sell off a little bit, and they benefit from that in a way where they can actually short the market, and who knows if they're actually doing that. It's just what people have speculated, but they'll actually short the market sometimes according to speculation, and then whenever they sell their Bitcoin, they'll sell off like large amounts for us, but not a large amount for them. It's just enough to make Bitcoin kind of fall back down, and they can make money on the way down. And then, but the other side of that coin is that a lot of people are saying that this little space there is bothering me. There we go, fixed it. A lot of people are saying that this is actually a long-term bull trend, because if we didn't have that, Bitcoin would just be in a full sprint, and this actually helps the market kind of catch its breath a little bit and catch our breath for a little bit, and then we'll go up longer term. So we have a longer sprint. We just need a few breaks in between just to catch our breath. All right, that's where Bitcoin is. There's been some stuff that's been on a run lately, and I want to kind of dive into it too. One of the big narratives right now is NFTs, and they're actually stands for non-fungible tokens. And I don't pretend to be an expert on this. I think it's interesting, but it's basically digital forms of art is what I know. And so the cool thing about these is that they're going to actually drive revenue for a lot of people online. It's another way to make money. Some people are buying them as an investment to say, I'm buying an NFT to just hold, and then it's going to go up in value, because some people are buying stuff for like 100 or $200, then later reselling it for like 1,000 or 2,000 in forms of like sports cards that are digital, other forms of digital art. Interesting ones that have come out. There was a guy named Blau, a DJ, and he sold NFTs on his album, I guess, or something like that, where he is actually letting people collaborate. I think one or two people collaborate with him on his album if they bought the NFTs or something like that, or his next album or something like that. So I think that's really cool. And you're selling experiences. But I got that info from Elio Trades. Don't want to act like I came up with that on my own. Elio Trades is another great YouTuber that I've talked about that's really good follow too. And I know he's big into the NFT game and run circles around what I know. And he's actually making his own NFTs. So that's really cool. So, shout out to Elio. And that's I actually looked at some NFT plays a couple weeks ago, and I bought a couple. I got Mana, which is stands for Decentraland. This is actually like if you played Sims or World of Warcraft or anything along those lines, you have these digital worlds. And so Decentraland is a digital world where you can actually buy real estate. And I think this will probably be pretty big in the future. But it's just like you create a character, and then you can like invest money into that and time and all that. And you can have like virtual meetups. Second Life was another one that I think I had a college professor show me that. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet up sometimes with my wife if we're out of state or whatever. And we'll meet up together on Second Life, and then we'll ride motorcycles through the mountains. And I was like, man, we were all like, man, that's blew our minds that's a thing. But he was ahead of the game on that. And so obviously there's going to be a growing market for that as time goes on. So, Decentraland is just a virtual form of that. And they have these tokens called Mana. So I got in that. This is another reason, like on the last podcast where I said, don't sell your stuff until it pumps. I've been holding Uniswap for, a month. It's one that I've had bad luck with it, because I got it, watched it, continually go down for a long time, finally sold it. And then I think like a month later it went up, and it like 3 to 4x from there. And so then I got back in it and waited, and I finally sold it. And then the next day it went up like 50%. And I was like, man, like this is why you don't sell until your stuff pumps. Cause eventually it is, and you just don't want to miss it. I could have sold it at that pump and been fine. But anyway, right after Uniswap pumped, that's when the whole market kind of downturned, and I had just gotten into Mana before that. And so I lost a significant, maybe 30% of my investment, was down, but now it's back up. So it basically, I got in it at 32 because I thought with the chart it was going to keep going. And then the whole market just went down, and then it went down to, I think, like 19 cents at one point. So it's a little more than 30% on that. But yeah, so then it eventually has got back up, and now Mana is around 40 cents. So that's actually pretty nice. And I've made like a 25% return on that, the money that I have left in there. I actually converted a little bit also to something called Loom. Honestly, don't know that much about it. It just was a recommendation from a friend. And so I could try to get back in Mana, but I know Mana has already pumped, and Loom is up about 10% or so. So I'm just kind of waiting on that to see what happens. So I think interestingly with NFTs, the whole point of the story was Mana has digital NFTs, I believe, in the game. And so another one that has that is Engine Token. And actually asked my wife, I'm like, hey, here's three cryptocurrencies that I want to invest in potentially. Which one do you like? And I told her Cardano, eGold, or Elrond, and Engine. And I read her the descriptions, and she was like, I think Engine sounds like the best one because it's kind of based on video games. And, she hears a lot about that through friends and coworkers and stuff. So I'm like, I think it's just, you think video games are a good space to get into. So she decided, let's do that one. And I listened to her and it paid off. So I got in it around 59 cents last Friday. And since then, it's already up to $1.34. It went up to 151 and now it's at 134. So you can't really ask for a better, week than that. And so I'm just holding that, gonna let it ride and see where it goes this year. But I'm happy that I got in when I did. And so shout out to Ezzy on that one. Nice call. But anyway, let's see. So NFTs are big. Another thing that I saw with ABC News, it's becoming a little mainstream now that Kings of Leon is actually going to sell their album via NFTs, I believe. I didn't read the whole thing, but they talked about that on ABC News podcast. So I like to listen to them just to get some deep dive information on some news. Of course, I know news can be biased, so I don't want to get political, but I'm just saying I know that I try to take it with the information and not let the spin, get me either way. But it's I feel like they're a good news source to kind of deep dive and hear more of the information. Another great podcast, if you just want the information in a short 10-minute thing, I'm going to plug the Newsworthy podcast with Erica Mandy. She does it every day, Monday through Friday, and then she does a Saturday special. She'll just do all the news stories in 10 minutes with no bias, just the facts. Here's what happened, and then just let you keep up with what's going on in 10 minutes. I kind of like to hear a little bit more sometimes, so I listen to the start here. But anyway, I just like to ramble and just talk. That's what's fun about this. So yeah, so I heard on ABC News, Kings of Leon will be doing NFTs, and their album NFTs or something like that will be available for 2 weeks. And then from there on out, if people want the album, they have to buy it secondhand. So it creates this demand. And that's a big thing that you'll see in a lot of products these days, is that they'll just do a short term sale and the hype is big. And so people buy it really fast and then it's gone. And then I think that's an interesting way that, people will do scarcity marketing, and it really seems to work on a lot of different things. All right. So just looking at that, I think now basically with the pullback that's been in the market for the past, week or two, and where things are, I think we're poised for big returns over the next month or so, because we've had that dip. I'm not saying it's over, but it's probably going to continue to go up from what I believe. And Bitcoin went from 57K down to about 43,000, and then has been just slowly picking back up from there. And it's been trending up to where it's about 49 today. So I think it's going to keep, it might up and down a little bit, but it's going to keep going up, I think. So now I think even though Bitcoin is almost 50,000, you have to look at the big picture. Like we said, zoom out and you think, okay, what's Bitcoin going to do? And all the projections that we've talked about have said that Bitcoin is going to be about 300K this year by the end of the bull market. Okay. So that's a 6X from here. And that's still great. If you want a safe, long-term, like not long-term, but just kind of a few month investment that could go up 6X, that's Bitcoin, and so I think this is as long as Bitcoin keeps going up, the rest of the market's going to just follow it. And some stuff might have higher returns, but that's why it's good to diversify, because Bitcoin is going to give you that solid, uptrend, whereas everything else could be higher percentage gains, but it's also going to fluctuate a lot more heavily too, percentage wise. So you'll be up or down a few $1,000 sometimes on stuff. So looking at my portfolio, just to tell you guys where we are, and I'm pretty happy. I'm not pretty happy, but just very happy with how much I've been able to invest, considering where you guys heard I was financially like 2 years ago. And it's like, it's hard to think like, where did this money come from? Because I'm like, I know I've been investing. I just didn't realize it had been that much. And I think there's been obviously some good returns since we started this, back last year. But at the same time, it just kind of like when you think about where you've been and where you are and how you got there, sometimes it kind of surprises you because you think like, I didn't know I could accomplish that. And I will tell you that the real thing is just consistency, because if you look at things over the course of like a year or two, you're making like incremental changes day by day, and you might not notice a big difference, but then when you look back a year or two, you really think, man, like I've made progress on that. And I know a lot of people can probably relate to that. It's just incremental changes over a long time lead to big results, and it's better to have small consistent things that you do instead of waiting till one big thing happens and then put in everything waiting for that. Sometimes you can make more progress just by being consistent. So interesting little principle there. All right, so Bitcoin percentage wise of the portfolio, that's the biggest holding, which people say you're supposed to do that. 26% of my portfolio. I added up all these percentages and they came out to like 99.4%. So I think I left some points off the larger ones, but I mean, who cares? It's just a matter of, I didn't want to go into points and all that until we got down to less than 5%. So Bitcoin, that one is 26% of the portfolio. Link or chain link is 19% of the portfolio. And I talked to you guys, that's the first one that I really got into this past year, and I should have more of it, but then I moved it around into other stuff like we talked about. But I still have 19% in chain link, and I'm pretty happy with that one. Chain link is basically, if like we talked about, it's a Oracle, which helps, they bring real world data into the blockchain, and I think that's going to be a huge market. Chainlink is a blue chipper, I would say, that will continue to grow throughout the rise of cryptocurrency. There's some competitors out there, API3 and Band Protocol, that look really good too, but Chainlink should be able to solidify its business. It's basically, like Leo says, it's the Coca-Cola of these Oracle protocols. API3, one to watch out for though, according to Leo. All right, and then I also have one called Voyager token, or VGX. That one I took some money in and was like hoping for a good percentage gain in short term. If you guys, I wish I had found this app earlier. It's called Voyager. They have really a nice interface, and they have a token called Voyager token. And I got in it when it was about 250 or so, and now it's about $6 or so, I think. So that one's been really good returns, and so I put some money into that, and that one's 12% of my portfolio now. So I mean, obviously it's all relative. I'm glad I got in when I did. But apparently earlier this year, it was down at like 15 cents, so if you got in at 15 cents, you'd have, 70x returns already and still more to go. So that one is a good one to watch. There's a guy I saw on Twitter who did a stock to flow type projection on that, and he thinks it'll go up to like 50 this year. So you can still get 5 to, 15x returns. I can't even do the math, but yeah, whatever. What's 50 divided by 7x returns. Yeah. So still a long way to go on VGX, and it could go higher in the future. So 12% of my portfolio is VGX. And then the Mana one that I talked about, that's 9% of the portfolio. Ethereum, 7%. I should be higher in ETH, but I'm kind of glad I took some money out of ETH because it hasn't really done much the past month or two. So 7% of my portfolio is Ethereum. Synthetics, what that is they do synthetic assets so that people can make trades similar to like derivatives on the stock market. I'm not that fluent on that one, but as a recommendation from Elio, that one's 5% of the portfolio. We've had like 2 to 3x returns on that. Loom is the one that I bought on a recommendation. It's up about 10%, so it can't be mad. It's solid, and it could pop here in the next week or two. And that one's at 4.6% of the portfolio. ADA Cardano, that's 3.8% of the portfolio, and that's one that I'm really looking to add more of. I was going to potentially get more of it last week, and I'm still considering it. If Loom does pop, maybe like 30-40% or some kind of 20%, something like that on Loom, I'll probably move that money into Cardano, because I do think Cardano could be when it's from all the news and research have come out from the past few weeks, it just seems like Cardano is moving in a direction, and I'll kind of touch on why like Cardano is. It's a tortoise versus the hare. So with Ethereum and Cardano, Ethereum came out first, and it got most of the market adoption first. So a lot of people have already gotten into Ethereum. The problem is there are some limitations with the platform and scalability and stuff like that. And high fees have created a lot of issues for Ethereum. And if you look at Ethereum, it's actually stalled out in this bull run. It hit 2000, which is an all-time high, but went all the way back to like 13 or 1400, and that's now sitting about 1600. So it's not bad, but it's going to be interesting to see because it hasn't quite performed as well as people were expecting. And Cardano, in the meantime, was at 34 cents about a month ago. And that one has gone 4x to where it hit all the way up to about 140 something and is at 125 now. So that one is performing really well, and they're looking to continue to perform. More and more good news about Cardano comes out, and I would say Ethereum versus Cardano is tortoise versus the hare. And the guy who started Cardano, his name's Charles Hoskinson. He was one of the first people on Ethereum, and he saw the limitations of it. And he said, I'm going to create my own product or my own blockchain, basically. And they called it Cardano. And it's very different from Ethereum in the sense that they took a lot longer to get it ready, but they fixed a lot of the issues that have been wrong with Ethereum. And so even though Cardano is a lot lower in price, it could gain a lot of market share in the future from Ethereum. And so I think that's a really good long-term play. I think I misspoke last time. I said if Ethereum is 1,000 or something, or 2,000, why can't Cardano go that high? I kind of did some research, and the supply and market cap doesn't really say that that should happen. I think $100 Cardano would be really, really good. So, but still, Cardano is $1.25 right now. And if you're thinking like, hey, can my investment 100x, like, that's amazing. Almost 100x, whatever it is, and it's got that 25 on there, so it wouldn't technically be 100x, but something close. But yeah, so Cardano, it's already 4x in the past month, and it's probably going to keep going up from here. The more and more people are liking it, and I really like it as well. I think it's going to solve a lot of problems in the real world, and it's people are going to be able to vote with Cardano, and it's going to be able to have secure elections. There's so many use cases for it. If you just go look at it and just listen to the guy Charles talk, like it gave me chills to hear the potential of it, because they're aiming to solve so many real world issues. I think this is going to be one of the best solutions of the blockchain. And I'm going to give a spoiler alert real quick for the Hunger Games. So if you have not seen that movie somehow yet, fast forward like a minute or two. But the way I've been feeling about blockchain recently is like the first time I saw the Hunger Games, and I hadn't read the books. I just watched it, one Sunday afternoon. Really liked the movie. I was into it. I was like, man, like this is firing me up. Just the story of it was cool. But then at some point in the movie, I thought to myself, okay, what if Katniss Everdeen like leads a revolution, or they have some kind of revolution against this government? Wouldn't that be wild? Um, and then at the end of I think it was the end of the first movie, they bring her up in the helicopter at the end, and they say, "This is the revolution." And I was like, yes, like got so fired up in that moment. I was and I was like, this is a cool story, blah, blah, blah. Amazing story. So I was really into it. And to me, I think that's what blockchain signals to me. It's that same feeling of this is the revolution, because you have this time where we had before the internet, okay, and things were okay, things were going well. And then we have the internet here, but then we have all this stuff that still has problems, and the internet hasn't been able to solve it. And we can see the inefficiencies in the world, and we're like, how do we solve those inefficiencies? And the blockchain is figuring out how to solve all those inefficiencies. And I think that is why I'm like, this is the revolution. All the things that we look at and we're like, why is it this way? Why can't it be better? With blockchain, we should be able to solve those problems. And it takes away all the leverage of the institutions that have already been around and might be inefficient at this point because they haven't had to improve and haven't been pushed to improve. And if things go like they should, blockchain will be the thing to revolutionize the world. And we'll look at the world pre-internet and then pre-blockchain. So that's my little speech right there. All right. If you fast forwarded ahead, this is a good part to get back in. So Algo, that's another one. I really, that's kind of similar to Cardano, but just a different blockchain. That one had 3.7%, and they gave you 6% rewards on Coinbase. So that's cool too. I got another one recently called Elrond eGold. What that does, I think it speeds up blockchain transactions through this process called sharding. And so what sharding is, with a D, make sure you say sharding with a D. It's they break up a transaction into tiny little pieces and then speed it all through. So it's like instead of trying to get this thing through, I guess like a hole, you take it and break it into little pieces, and then it makes the transaction speed very very fast. So I think this one, I think a lot of people have been saying that I've researched that it has really good potential, and it's already pretty high at like 100. It was 120 something per share. Now it's already up to like 150 something per share. And I think this one has good potential in the future. So another one that, like we talked about, ENJ engine, that one I got in at 59 cents and now it's at 13 or $1.30 or $1.20 something. I can't remember. So feeling great about that. That's related to the NFTs. And another one with engine is that I heard something about they could be getting into real estate in the future too. So like if you want to buy a house or something, you'll have like an ability to get like the token of NFT that goes with that property. I don't know. It's something interesting like that, but they have a lot of NFT stuff and they're related to video games. And I think that market's going to continue to grow. Polkadot, that's another one that it's going to help scale Ethereum. So we talked about Ethereum has those limitations. That one, I've got 0.9% of my portfolio, but trying to stack that one and keep adding more and more of that one because I think it's a new system that's going to help Ethereum with its limitation scale. And it's supposed to be, it's already like in the top 5, I think. So I expect that one to keep going and going, and I like it a lot. Aave, that's 0.8% of my portfolio. It's basically a peer-to-peer lending where you can actually send loans to people without a bank. So I think that'll be a huge market in the future. The Graph, that's 0.6%. That one is kind of like a documentation or search. I can't remember. It's kind of like the Google of the blockchain. And so I think that's obviously something that people would want. And it's pretty low price right now. I think it's like under $2 per graph token. So it's already gone from like 17 cents earlier this year to like $2. So that one has high potential as well. XLM, I've got 0.4% of that. VET, VChain, sorry, XLM and Stellar Lumens. It's kind of like a little token for payments and stuff like that. Been holding it for a long time. You know, it's not a lot. And then VET, VChain, that one's interesting because it's a supply chain blockchain where they're actually trying to help track stuff a lot better through using the blockchain and improving the existing supply chain. So I think, sorry, the supply chain is something that we talked about as well. That's like kind of outdated in the world. The current measures that we have to track supply chain are a little bit outdated, and BET VChain is supposed to modernize that process with the blockchain. And so that one has huge potential. That one is 0.4% of my portfolio, and that one should grow. I think it hasn't really taken off yet. So that one's still got a lot of potential. And then I got 0.1%, something called StormX, just because I had a few bucks and said, hey, let me throw it in something that's super cheap and see what happens. So that one is just like a small percentage that I'm just, I'm like, if I save up some money here and there and just have a few bucks, I can just put it in something that's really cheap. And then one day maybe it'll turn into something. So that was my logic there. So that's my portfolio. I think BTC, Link, Voyager, Ethereum, Synthetics, Cardano, Engine maybe still, Polkadot, Elrond, eGold, and Aave and Graph are probably like the ones. I mean, that's a lot, but yeah, Mana, Engine. I said Mana before, or Engine. and then VeChain are kind of like lower cap that are poised to grow, and then VGX looks good too, and it's just been steady. So still looking to add more here and there, but very happy with the way it's been going so far. And we started this journey in April last year, trying to get him back into cryptocurrency, but didn't realize the potential. I wish I had back then. I could have been starting earlier, but like we said, it's all relative, and I'm very happy with where we've been able to get to, and where the results that I've had, just from being able to be consistent. So I appreciate you guys listening. I think now is kind of a good point that everyone's taking a break, and I think we're going to see continued gains throughout the rest of the year, up until the end of the bull run, and that could be in August, September. So we still have the rest of the summer and spring and summer to make gains, and we could be getting to the point where we really take off here. So if you've been on the sidelines and you're thinking about it, I would look into Voyager app. Coinbase is another one that has a lot of things. Voyager, everyone has different features and stuff. They'll usually take a couple weeks because there's a wait list and there's so many people signing up. But I do like that platform. They have some ways where you can set the price that you want to buy, whereas Coinbase, if you're on regular, you have to just buy it at the market price. Whereas you do have Coinbase Pro where you can do that too with the limit price. So there's a lot of stuff on there that you can do. But I like both platforms, and there's a lot of whatever you like better is fine. So that's the podcast for the day. I wanted to get a percentage out there for my portfolio so people could make decisions and hear what I'm in. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to say, this is my journey to $1 million. I think I've kind of figured out a way to get there with this, and there's another plan that I'm going to drop in the future. So that's kind of a teaser. I think that's going to be the game changer. But for right now, I'm just happy with where I'm at, enjoying the ride, and then we'll see where we are in a few months, and then take the next step from there. So I appreciate you guys listening, and have a great day. I will talk to you later.